biscuits or the crisps? All in? Buying a birthday card for a cat? OK then. George is a millionaire! Get yourself a coat with sleeves! Lotto makes 2 millionaires a week on average. Will you be the next millionaire?
In life, you win some and you lose some. Spin it all!
Checkmate.
13 of diamonds. Ha! Oh. Checkmate. At Mr. Q Bingo, there's loads of games for you to sink your teeth into. Dabbers at the ready. We're waiting for you to jump in and have some fun. Play at mrcubingo.uk. Shockingly good bingo.
How long's it been then? We met about 8 years back. What? Yeah, serious relationship.
He has this way of looking into my eyes.
Knows how to treat me. Gentle, considerate.
Did I tell you he owns his own business?
I think he's going to pop the question.
Better or worse?
Better.
Our opticians and audiologists own their stores, so your care is their business, which can make them rather popular.
Apparently, he's seeing half the town.
Book an appointment today.
I've been thinking, I want to plan my funeral so it feels more like a celebration. My parents always said I was born dancing. I just love it. Bhangra, disco, even line dancing. So when my time comes, I want to have music, dancing, the lot.
With over 150 years' experience, you can count on Co-op Funeral Care to help you pre-plan the funeral you want. To find out more, visit Co-op Funeral Care or give us a call.
Bingo lovers, it's time for a close encounter with Bingo Aliens. Visit bingoaliens.com/bingo for a cosmic range of bingo games. 75-ball bingo, even 90-ball bingo. All from a galaxy far away, direct to you. Taking bingo to another dimension at bingoaliens.com/bingo.
We know travel can be confusing, so let us inspire you. Welcome to Qatar. Experience it all. World-class hospitality, diverse landscapes from city to sea, and fly there with the Airline of the Year 2022, Qatar Airways. Book now at travelup.com or call 0207 580 5000. Travel Up, flights, hotels, holidays.
I bought cars on finance, so I've made my claim.
If our lenders charge hidden commissions, then I've made my claim.
I could be on thousands.
I've made my claim.
I've made my claim.
I've made my claim.
I've made my claim. It's so quick and simple.
You could be owed thousands in hidden commissions from vehicles bought on finance since 2007, even without the details.
I've made my claim.
Trust myclaimgroup.co.uk.
Claims made simple.
This is NDTV, and you're watching NDTV 24x7.
Hello and welcome. You're watching India Global. I'm Gauri Dwivedi. This is a show that gets you all the latest news that's happening around the world and that matters to the global Indian. But first up, as always, we start with headlines. US President Donald Trump claims Iran-Israel truce is now in effect. Netanyahu, Israeli Prime Minister, says Israel has agreed to Trump's truce proposal. United States all set to screen social media accounts of visa applicants. Applicants will be required to adjust their social media privacy settings if they want a visa from the US. Reform UK proposes selling UK residency for £250,000. Britannia card is what it's called. It will offer tax breaks on overseas assets. And Shubhanshu Shukla's Axiom 4 mission targets 25th June launch. NASA says Axiom 4 mission launch likely to take place tomorrow. All right, viewers, the big story that we are tracking on India continues to be, well, what's happening in the Middle East. US President Donald Trump has said that there is now a truce in place. And even as Prime Minister of Israel has said that he's agreed to the Trump's peace proposal, even though there is still fluidity that remains simply because the situation on ground is so volatile. Netanyahu says that all objectives of Operation Lion against Iran have been achieved. So does peace really have an option right now? Is it likely to get that particular option is the big question. Even as viewers, there's been a barrage of missiles that's been launched by Iran that's been targeting several cities of Israel, and the death toll has risen, and that has been a cause of great concern for Israel and also for America, given that this truce, this peace proposal is yet to really be tested completely. Now, Israel has reopened its airspace for emergency flights, and India has evacuated fresh batch of 292 nationals from Iran. And how this thing is likely to pan out going forward is going to be extremely interesting. Let's quickly now tell you, viewers, what really has happened in the last 12 odd days. And let's tell you the 12-day war broken down in terms of the timeline. Let's put that out for you. First and foremost, it started with 13th of June when that surprise attack was actually launched by Israel. That was the first start of this entire attack. It came after Israel felt that Iran is not acting as far as its nuclear program is concerned. 13th of June is when the nuclear sites of Iran were attacked by Israel, the first set of strikes that happened. Let's move ahead. Let's talk about what happened on the 18th of June when Iran fired missiles at Israel. This is when it got the escalation really started coming into play, that Iran had started firing back at Israel. Several of Israeli cities were under attack due to a barrage of Iranian missiles that were being targeted at several residential areas. That's what Israel had said, that many residential areas were being targeted. But then it escalated between 18th and 20th of June when fighting continued to escalate from the Iranian and Israeli side. Strikes and counter strikes were being exchanged, and more residential areas were being hit, even as the IDF said that it was only targeting IRGC command centers. IRGC is the elite unit of Iranian military. On 21st June, this is the inflection point, viewers, when 3 nuclear sites in Iran were attacked by the US. This was done through B-2 stealth bombers. This was done through Tomahawk cruise missiles, and 3 of the main Iranian nuclear sites were attacked. This was Fordo, Isfahan and Natanz, where it was assumed and it was said that the nuclear facility was enriching uranium, which was already at 60% and was set to grow up to as high as 90%. Then on the 23rd is when the Iranian retaliatory attack came against US. They were continuing to strike the Israeli cities, but this is when they attacked the US airbase in Qatar. It was supposed to be in retaliation to its 3 nuclear sites being attacked, but this was largely symbolic in nature, viewers, simply because the attack had already been forewarned. Qatar was forewarned, which went ahead and informed America much in advance, which was able to pull out most of its strategic assets from one of its most important core bases in Qatar. It's one of the forward bases of US Central Command. Qatar has been hosting that since 1996. It has also pumped at billions of dollars there. So this is a very large forward base of the US in Middle East, which was attacked. But because of the forewarning, it was largely symbolic, which is why quickly the last thing that came in, which is that Trump announced ceasefire. Hours after that attack is when the ceasefire really came into play. It was announced suddenly by Donald Trump. Many asked, was this premature? Was this premeditated? Well, questions that remain unanswered. But that's the broad timeline of the 12-day war, viewers, in terms of what really happened, the sequence of events that had brought the world to a possible brink of a potential escalation that could engulf not just the Middle East, but the wider area, maybe even the entire world. And as we talk about this, I want to now play out this ground report that's been filed by my colleague Ankit Tyagi, who's on ground, who is in Israel, covering this war, covering every detail of it. And he's talking about how air sirens are still being heard across Israel, even as we keep talking about the ceasefire here. Listen into that ground report.
There were some interceptor fragments which in fact fell at a few places which have been reported by the local media. The third one came just about 10 minutes before the fourth one, just about 10 minutes. All right, as I speak you can hear the air raid sirens going in, so I will have to make my way towards a shelter this is the fourth time that these air raid sirens have gone in, and we will try and make our way out and see if we can find us a safe place. This is the fourth time the air raid sirens have gone out here in Tel Aviv and Israel. Thank you so much. So fourth alert here, and you heard the sirens going behind me while we were trying to speak. I am in a place where I could. All right, this is the announcement being made. Listen into. So this announcement basically saying make your way to the safe area, and at this moment I can tell you that this is the fourth air raid siren that went off when you heard the massive air raid sirens that just began to in fact blare here in Tel Aviv as well. I have lost the connection to the studio. I'm hoping that I can get connected again because the signal here in the safe room are extremely bad. Okay, again we can hear some loud thuds. It seems that interceptors are on the job. There are some missiles which have been lobbed towards Tel Aviv, at this moment I can only tell you that this is from the time I've come in, it's the third day now, and I have never seen in the last 3 days, 12th day of the war, how continuously barrage after barrage of missiles is coming in from Iran. There were alerts, yesterday also when the alerts came in, one was at 3 a.m. in the morning, the other one then was at 10:30 a.m. in the morning, but there was some gap. Right now, in just a matter of last 1 hour, there have been 4 alerts, and once again, this is the third time in Tel Aviv that I can hear massive thuds which are taking place right outside. It seems that the interceptors at this moment are working, but very, very difficult situation as we speak.
All right. While the truce tango continues, there are questions that are being asked about how does this add up with a symbolic Iranian strike on Qatari base, followed by a ceasefire announcement that happened almost in a matter of hours. Let's put out those big questions that we'll get our experts to answer for us, and questions that are being now asked around the world. First and foremost, now as the ceasefire now comes into effect, it's expected to till about 7 p.m. Israeli time is when it is being given that time period and window by Israel. Will this now mean that talks will once again start? Will diplomacy be given a shot? That's the first key question that we are asking. Next, will this ceasefire actually hold? Will peace hold in this region? Right now, Israel has said that they're going to see till 7 p.m. today. And remember, even during the ceasefire window that Iran was given that 12 hours, there were these massive strikes that came in from the Iranian side. Next, what really happens to the Iranian nuclear program? The premise of these strikes was the Iranian nuclear program. What happens to that, and what is the status there? And last and equally important, which is that is Trump really a peacemaker, or is he a peace prize chaser? Remember, there's been a lot of anticipation about how Donald Trump deserves Nobel Prizes because he's going around shutting and closing wars, and he's bringing about peace. And we told you about the timeline here. Just hours after that symbolic attack on the American airbase in Qatar was this announcement of a ceasefire. Let's connect the dots. Let's kind of get our guest to join us for more on this. James Dorsey, who's a journalist and a Middle East expert, joins us on the broadcast, along with Professor Jangid, who is also an adjunct faculty at the Ben Gurion University in Israel, and also here at the OP Jindal University. All right, James Dorsey, let me start with you. How do you see things right now in terms of the situation on ground? There is fluidity, but the questions that we are asking, let's take them one by one. Do you see the fire actually holding out?
I think this is a very, very fragile halt to the hostilities. I think one's got to be careful to call it a ceasefire. Let's keep in mind that Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu call it a ceasefire. The Iranians don't. As far as the Iranians are concerned, they are holding to the position that they had from the beginning of this round of hostilities, which was, we will stop when the Israelis stop. If the Israelis stop and call it a ceasefire, that's fine with them. But as far as they're concerned, there's no ceasefire as such. There's a halt to the hostilities. Second of all, we don't know if there are any conditions or terms attributed to the ceasefire. Whether it will hold will very much depend on a number of factors. First of all, whether or not you get a return to the negotiations. Return to the negotiations is going to be difficult because the Iranians are not going to return to the negotiations on Trump's terms, which are basically a surrender. Moreover, it depends on what the Iranians do. I think one can assume
what Iranians
with a great
will
degree
do, I'll tell you what, Mr. Dorsey, you're speaking about what Iranians will do. There is breaking news coming in, and let's put that out right now for our viewers. So, that there is breaking news coming in, that there are more missile strikes that are taking place. That's what Iranians are doing. We were talking about whether or not this fragile peace framework may actually hold. And you mentioned how it's being called a ceasefire only on one side, which is the Israeli side, and not on the Iranian side. But update coming in is that the IDF says that sirens has been sounded in northern Israel and missiles have been fired from Iran. So, Mr. Dorsey, what are we really talking about here? What framework of peace are we really even now hoping to stand out?
I obviously haven't seen the last news.
No, sir, this just came in. This is coming in right now during the broadcast.
But I have no doubt about its accuracy, and I think you've got your answer. If the Iranians are firing after there was an agreement or an understanding to halt the firing, then obviously they don't see a halt to these hostilities. We don't know whether that was unprovoked, provoked. I have no idea, so it's very hard to judge. But it is clearly a demonstration of just how fragile whatever agreement there may or may not be, and the fact that it already is being violated.
Professor Kinraj, come in there. We're talking about, well, the first question we were asking was whether this peace, this fragile peace framework is actually going to stand or not. Within just hours, we seem to be getting not very encouraging response.
Namaskar. It is actually holding well, I must say. I'm in Tel Aviv. As Ankit, your colleague, was showing, those were the sirens that happened here from 4:30 in the morning till about 7 o'clock. In fact, I was sleeping in a shelter room, which looks like a bedroom. It's not like a bunker or a tunnel. And after 7, there has been a complete halt of sirens. What you just read out seems to be the news also in the Israeli media at the moment, that there was one missile launched in the north. But the statement of the Iranian leaders, as well as the statement of the Netanyahu in Tel Aviv, have agreed to the peace agreement. Ceasefire agreement. I personally think that this is something that Iran needed as much as America needed. I'll tell you, a day before yesterday, Israeli leaders told Iranians that we will wrap up our operation in few days. And I think it was Trump's ultimatum to Netanyahu to stop it. So I think Trump exercised some amount of leverage over Israel, and Iran really needed a way out. Let's understand this. A few years back, when Soleimani was assassinated, Iranians also carried the ballistic missiles on the American camps with ample amount of information given beforehand. And this is exactly what they did in Qatar. So it gives them a public face. It gives a respectful exit for the regime in Iran. And I think this is what precisely they did yesterday, that they informed Qatar, and Americans were informed. In fact, Israelis were informed.
Indeed, the off-ramp that was offered to the Iranian regime to be able to come out of the present conflict without actually succumbing to the domestic political constituencies there as well. The other question that I want to ask both of you, which is, well, before I come to Donald Trump and his aspiration here, whether it is about peace or whether it's about price, we're going to come to that in a bit. I want to then talk about the nuclear program, the premise of the entire conflict reaching what it was. The whole 12-day war was because the nuclear program continues unabated. James Dorsey, your thoughts on, do you see that now being brought back on the negotiating table?
Again, as I stated earlier, the Iranians want negotiations. The Americans want negotiations. The problem is that in the last 5 rounds, you've had very different concepts of what constitutes a negotiation. If that difference in concept of negotiations, with other words, Trump's tone and his basic attitude which is, I'm telling you what you're going to do, you're going to do it, and if you don't do it, you now know what's going to happen. That's not going to work. I think the further issue here is that you are going to, clearly the Israelis and the Americans have severely damaged the Iranian nuclear program. We don't know how damaged it is. We also don't know how damaged the Iranian ballistic missile arsenal is. But you can bet on it that the Iranians will resume their nuclear program. They will rebuild it, and they will continue to manufacture ballistic missiles.
Okay.
So unless you have a negotiation that really is aimed at coming to a equitable solution,
okay,
you're going to see this halt to hostilities break down.
Okay, so we haven't heard the last of this, but have you heard the last of Trump's prize aspirations? Professor Kinraj, let me ask you that. Donald Trump and his aspiration for Nobel Peace Prize, many believe that seems to be the one that's driving how he wanted a ceasefire just hours after that attack.
I think his temptation will be really fulfilled if he recognizes the Palestinian state and now calls Israel to end the war in Gaza immediately, which he is capable of doing. The point is, will he really pull the Israel into that change of policy? As far as the nuclear program is concerned, it's a wicked problem in international relations. What Iran is doing is what India did. India went nuclear under American sanctions.
Right.
In fact, if you look at the Indian vocabulary against the NPT, it's exactly the language that Iranians have been using, calling it a nuclear apartheid system. The Western world was extremely unfair and remains unfair with their privileges of having the weapons and forbidding the others.
Right.
Personally think what is working for Trump for this ceasefire is the fact that Trump went to this war having the lowest public support for this Iran war.
Indeed.
There was a way, and less than 20% Americans supported Trump involving in Iranian issue.
Yes.
In fact, some of his billionaire friends and tech friends who are part of the Make America Great Again,
yes,
they advised him, don't do it. Now, he did the attacks because this was something that was needed. And I do think that Iranian nuclear program was reaching an aggressive messaging as well as explicit threats to the Israeli state. Now that the nuclear program is done, let's think of it. He's not interested in a regime change, even when he said it loosely twice. And Israelis realized it. In fact, there was an interesting report 2 days back in Israel, by the way. IDF released a report for the Israeli Security Cabinet saying that the 10 days of the war has not shaken the regime domestically. What Israel anticipated, that there would be a huge public uprising against the regime. That didn't happen. So I think Israelis as well as Americans realized they cannot go for a regime change.
They cannot go for a regime change
against them.
Absolutely.
Trump needs to get back to his Make America Great Again project, and that he do if Middle East goes for a war. But as far as the Nobel Prize is concerned,
No
he
one
will for
knows.
sure get it if he gets the Palestinian issue back on the track.
All right, I'm going to leave it there, gentlemen. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining me on this edition of India Global. Well, viewers, the bottom line, as far as this issue is concerned, is that now that the Israel-Iran conflict seems to hopefully be nearing its end, questions do remain as far as the Truce Pact is concerned. How was it ratified? US has had pushed for a ceasefire owing to Trump's campaign promise of not entering a conflict. He needs to keep his MAGA constituency happy. Twice he's campaigned for not entering a Middle East war. He could not have possibly entered one himself, which is why a ceasefire was important. Second was his aspiration for a Nobel Peace Prize. He was nominated by the Pakistanis, but the Pakistanis themselves now are debating whether Trump was worth it or not. So he needed someone else to nominate him for, and that was this war. It had to come to an end, and which is why this could be another reason why Donald Trump announced a ceasefire so early. Is that going to be the situation on ground? Will the peace actually hold out, or will conditions once again lead to some sort of a contest or a conflict from here on? No one knows. On that note, viewers, if we slip into a quick break, we come back with more news on the other side. Stay with us.
Whether you're setting up a new nest, starting your own flock, or they just keep on growing, get more time to pay with VeryPay. You can buy now and pay up to 12 months later, and pay no interest, with nothing to pay at checkout. And you can easily keep track of payments in the Very app. More time to pay with VeryPay.
Let's play. Someone here is about to find out they've won Lotto, but who's the millionaire going to be? Maybe that guy, wondering, are crackers with the biscuits or the crisps? All in, buying a birthday card for a cat? Okay then. George is a millionaire. Get yourself a coat with sleeves. Lotto makes 2 millionaires a week on average. Will you be the next millionaire?
At Direct Line, we know that for multi-property landlords, sometimes the tiniest of things can turn into way bigger problems. From niggly contract issues to keeping up with ever-changing legislation. That's why Direct Line's landlord insurance offers a 24/7 legal helpline as standard. Because a call with someone could help to make the hairiest of problems feel that little bit smoother. Search Direct Line Landlord Insurance. We're on it.
I'm in. Okay, now, you can have a great first day. I promise, all right? Give me that.
Your donations helped 3D print his heart to guide his surgery, and saved his life with a groundbreaking innovation. And the future breakthrough that could cure her is closer than ever. Help us turn science fiction into reality and save more lives like hers. Donate to the British Heart Foundation now.
How long's it been then? We met about 8 years back. What? Yeah, serious relationship.
He has this way of looking into my eyes.
Knows how to treat me. Gentle, considerate.
Did I tell you he owns his own business?
I think he's going to pop the question.
Better or worse?
Better.
Our opticians and audiologists own their stores, so your care is their business, which can make them rather popular.
Apparently. He's seeing half the town.
Book an appointment today.
When Tony passed, we wanted to celebrate him his way. All he ever spoke about was bite this, bite that. I'll never forget our first date. Huge grin on his face as he rode up on that big noisy thing. And that's exactly the way he'd want to be remembered.
At Co-op Funeral Care, we know everyone is different. That's why we offer funeral plans to funeral services that are personal, every step of the way.
Viewers, the conflict has resulted in flight operations being disrupted as airspace restrictions have been imposed across Middle East in the wake of Iran's reported attacks on a US military base in Qatar late Monday. 48 flights, including 28 arrivals, 20 departures, cancelled at Delhi airport, with Air India and Indigo airspace taking the brunt. And airspace has now reopened in Israel, Bahrain, Qatar and the UAE. Air India has announced on Tuesday that it has ceased all operations to the Middle East region amidst the developing situation. All right, viewers, a quick break. We return with more stories on the other side. Stay with us.
I've been thinking, I want to plan my funeral so it feels more like a celebration. My parents always said I was born dancing. I just love it. Bhangra, disco, even line dancing. So when my time comes, I want to have music, dancing, the lot.
With over 150 years experience, you can count on Co-op Funeral Care to help you pre-plan the funeral you want. To find out more, visit Co-op Funeral Care or give us a call.
Oh, wasn't he lovely? That young man at Avanti Travel Insurance.
Yeah, very.
He was so reassuring. They covered all our medical conditions, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Your diabetes, my dodgy hip.
And the rest.
Even at your age, love. Oh. Love?
Oh, great.
Oh, love.
Avanti Travel Insurance cover most pre-existing health conditions for all ages. That's travel reassurance. Call or go online.
I knew I should have got the flamingo.
Air fryer. It fries using air.
Everybody's looking for that something.
Britain, what you buy is your business. Helping you pay less interest is ours.
You know how much that means. You found that special thing.
Air fryer.
You're flying with that wind.
Barclaycard. Make money work for you.
Discover the finest quality made-to-measure blinds, shutters and curtains at Blinds Direct. A huge selection of beautiful window dressings to suit every room. Handmade here in the UK with a 5-year guarantee for your peace of mind. Order your free samples today and choose your perfect design. Exclusively online, delivered direct to your door. Shop now for an extra 20% off and free delivery at blindsdirect.co.uk.
Bomin Irani, your acting career begins at a very young age of 41. And so usse pehle it was photography. You had captured India through the lens of a photographer, and then you worked in the hospitality sector as well. Before that. So while you were, dabbling between so many roles, which one is it, and when was it that you realized that it is acting?
I think when I was very young, my love was always cinema, actually. I used to watch all kinds of movies even at a very young age. Very young, and a lot of people used to wonder why I would watch movies that were...
All right, viewers, we now have David Satterfield. He's a former U.S. ambassador to Turkey, someone who served in Persian Gulf, Lebanon and Iraq, joining us to talk more about how he sees the entire conflict and where it is headed now. Ambassador David, thanks much for speaking to us. Let me start first and foremost, the attack that took place at the American base in Qatar. In your assessment, do you think that was an effort by Iran to escalate it, or do you think it was more symbolic in nature for the regime to get some sort of an off-ramp?
I interpret what has happened today as primarily designed for Iranian domestic audiences. Iran, the leadership, felt obliged to respond to the U.S. strike on the nuclear enrichment facilities, but the nature of the response, the fact that it was clearly telegraphed and not intended to produce casualties, would suggest to me that it is symbolic rather than substantive. My hope would be that it ends the present cycle and that there is no further U.S.-Iranian exchanges.
That hasn't happened, Ambassador Satterfield. That hasn't happened. There's been some sort of a ceasefire that has been put there. But in your assessment, where do you see the region and, more importantly, Trump administration's next steps? That though there may be a ceasefire, but do you think the possibility of this escalation happening?
The history of similar events during the first Trump administration, after the killing of Qasem Soleimani by the United States, was again a relatively symbolic Iranian strike to which there was no further U.S. response. While I cannot be certain, of course, I would hope and perhaps expect it would be similar in these circumstances unless Iran takes a further action. But the more important question is, where do events go now? And not specifically between the U.S. and Iran, but Iran and the region as a whole. Does Iran come to the negotiating table for a peaceful arrangement for the end of its enrichment program, or does it persist in efforts to use that program as a means of exerting a regional sway, a regional hegemony? We can hope that it does take Iran to a diplomatic ending, but we cannot be certain at this point.
Which brings me to ask you about the nuclear talks. Do you think diplomacy is going to get a fresh shot in the arm with some sort of possibility of all sides coming on the negotiating table?
Well, Iran either would not or could not come to the table with a significant commitment to ending its enrichment program, a program which it is used as a stick, if you will, to brandish over the region as a whole and the broader international community for many years now. Iran wouldn't do it during the initial period offered for a diplomatic resolution, but the president has made very clear that opportunity continues to exist. And I think it is something that the Iranian leadership should consider very, very carefully. But I'll repeat myself, the calculations of the supreme leadership of Iran are extremely difficult for external observers to fully understand. But the opportunity for a diplomatic way out absolutely is there.
What about, you mentioned about the supreme leader. I want to ask, regime change has been mentioned as one of the possibilities. President Trump mentioned that. Israel definitely wants that. Do you think that's still on the cards, or do you think the regime change and the supreme leader is now more comfortable in terms of his position in Iran than earlier?
I can't comment any further on the president's remarks, the president's tweets. What I will say is this: the U.S. strike was undertaken as a means of bringing to an end the enrichment program and bringing Iran to the negotiating table on peaceful arrangements to ensure that there is in the future no further threat posed to the region, posed to Israel in specific, or posed to Iranians by the continued pursuit of this enrichment program, which has more to do with external threat than it does any Iranian domestic need.
All right, final question, Ambassador Satterfield, which is about America's presence in this entire region. The entire region actually was looking at a potential escalation. It's brought back from the brink of a larger war. Where do you see America's role in the Middle East now?
El Udeid base will continue to function both for the United States, for the Qataris, and for all of our partners in the region and beyond.
All right. That, of course, was Ambassador David Satterfield talking about how things are looking like. Shift focus now to the other big story that we are now tracking. Shifting focus away from Iran and Israel on to, well, another very important aspect that we are looking at, which is a move that could strengthen the long arm of the U.S. State Department when it comes to giving visas to students, all those who aspire to get a student visa, whether it is students, whether it is green card holders, or anybody else for that matter. What could that be? What will be that entail? Well, individuals now that applying for an F or an M or a J non-immigrant visa will be required to adjust the privacy settings on all of their social media accounts to public to support identity verification, admissibility checks. The directive is part of enhanced vetting procedures being implemented across U.S. consular services globally. Announcement comes just 2 days after the U.S. Department of Homeland Security posted a broader clarification regarding the nature of visas. The department had stated that a U.S. visa is a privilege. It's not a right. The screening does not stop after it is issued. Now, as per these latest directives and guidelines by the U.S. State Department, every student visa adjudication is now treated as a national security decision. That's a very important part. Officials have been instructed to thoroughly examine applicants' intentions, especially regarding compliance with visa terms and potential crises and risks that could emanate into all the way raising questions regarding national security, which is why it's very important to put out some of those big questions that we are asking right here, and then we get in the guests as well on this. First and foremost, the question that we are asking, that is this now a security measure or is it a political tool? Will this effectively enhance national security for America? That's the primary goal that is being made out to be. Will this impact students' privacy and free speech? Do they actually have any free speech and privacy whatsoever, given the fact that everything now has to be in the public domain? And most importantly, will this at some point of time deter Indian talent from American campuses? Will they evaluate other opportunities? Let's get in a quick view on this. We have Prashant Ajmera and Naveen Chopra to talk more on this. The question, of course, also is from a larger point of view of U.S. State Department. Which one of you would like to take that question, sir? In terms of the U.S. State Department, do you think that the bureaucracy that Donald Trump was actually wanting to cut is now going to expand going forward, because he's going to need a lot more resources to be able to mine everybody's social media accounts? Are we looking at a more inflated bureaucracy in Donald Trump's second administration?
Not because of this factor, I don't think, because the AI-based automation is kicked in a heavy way, and that's increasing its footprint every day. So monitoring, to a very large extent, will also be AI-driven. Obviously, there will be humans involved in that process, but the key thing is that whoever has thought up this policy, or a group of people who thought up this policy, I'm afraid I would view them as very linear, straight-line thinkers. There are two aspects that this policy is going to impact negatively on the United States in the long run. One, the US has been a beacon of free speech. The First Amendment, is it the First Amendment or the Second Amendment? I forget. Related to free speech has been very often quoted by every leader, including the current president, and in terms of the right for anybody to make any kind of a comment at all whatsoever, however extreme it might be. Now, by passing this, they are essentially saying that we don't believe in free speech. Having said that, the revert from the administration could well be that, look, these rights apply to citizens and residents, not to aliens, as they call them, coming in. Fair enough, but the principles have been enumerated across the world. The second thing is, what do you think this is going to do? Almost a large number of people will now tailor their social media posts to reflect the picture they want to reflect. I mean, this will.
Okay,
this
let's get in a word. All right, hold your thought there, sir. I want to quickly get in a word from Prashant Ajmera on this as well. Prashant Ajmera, the big beautiful bill that Donald Trump is bringing in is talking about more expenses, more government expenditure. Well, this could be one such expenditure, right? The amount of resources it will take to actually mine through social media accounts of all those who want to apply to US is going to be very significant.
Yeah, obviously it will increase, and that's why they had to pause the processing of this non-immigrant visa for a few days. But as Mr. Chopra said, that it is going to be AI based or artificial intelligence based, so that the computer will check it out, the social medias when the applicants are applying. And if they find something means against the governments or whatever the criteria they have established, then they will pull up that. Remember that the DS-160 form which we use it is always been asking this question since last many years. But apart from just getting the informations, they were not vetting it or they were not looking into it using the tool. Probably now the government has developed the artificial intelligence tool whereby they can check this one. And I think this is more in a reflections what has happened in the last 12 to 18 months time on the American universities where the demonstrations happens against the governments and against the so and so forth. And most of them were like a foreign students as well. And that is one of the reasons they want to look at it, but also many other reasons. Because when it comes to the non-immigrant visas, generally any security checks or nothing is done, but more is done is with respect to the whether you have an immigrant intent or non-immigrant intent. So this is for the first times I think they are looking into that we want to do some security check about you as well. And for them, I think the social media is the ideal weapon to look into the history of the person.
Okay, all right. I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much, both of you. Well, at the end of the day, in fact, let's put out that bottom line, viewers, to talk more about this. There are several aspects to this as far as this story is concerned. This also tells you, point number one, that Donald Trump is very serious about how he wants to now ensure that entry into US, the entire visa selection process is going to be completely changed. Every application will be vetted. It means it will take much longer. It will also mean that the entire process will mean more steps in it. So he's not streamlining the process, he's adding more layers to it. It will also mean more resources by the State Department will have to be focused on providing details before the application even moves ahead. So more resources there. It also means that some resources will be diverted away from existing US State Department functions. What will that be? Whether it will be healthcare, whether it will be several others, no one knows. But there will be some change of resource allocation. That's the only way visa applications that come in, lakhs and lakhs of visa applications that come into US will have to be mined with that much amount of detail. And last and equally important, this also means that there will have to be more expenditure into the US bureaucratic system, something that the entire DOGE setup was actually meant to erase. Will that mean that the big beautiful bill will have more features and areas focused only on mining visa applications status in terms of social media? No one knows, but what I can say is that the wait is going to get longer because it's just going to take that much more time. On that note, we're going to slip into a very short break, come back with more stories on the other side. Stay with us.
Sadly, animal cruelty has reached an appalling high. It's the worst animal rescue emergency in our recent history, and we urgently need your help. The RSPCA is the only charity in England and Wales dedicated to animals of every kind. Without us, those facing serious abuse and neglect would simply not be saved. Like you, we can't bear to think of them suffering. That's why, despite the high numbers, we must reach them before it's too late. If you can help us carry on this vital work with a monthly gift, please call or text the number on screen now. Anything you can give would help so much. It'll help us answer more calls. It'll help us rescue more animals in danger and help provide them with the urgent medical treatment, food and loving care they need. I promise we will never give up trying to save every animal we can, but we need your help now more than ever. I can assure you, your gift will help save animals' lives every day. Please call 0800 234 6025, text SAVE to 78866, or visit our website to start your monthly donation today. Thank you.
Welcome to rooms where real life unfolds, where awkward spaces become favourite places, and space to work works for you. Welcome to more space to be yourself, with your room designed your way, where there's always room for one more chapter. Welcome to proudly on display or safely out of the way. Welcome to that feeling of home.
Welcome to Sharps Fitted Furniture for Every Room. Book your free home design visit today at sharps.co.uk.
Whatever you need to ask about cancer, Macmillan's free support line is just a call away.
Hello, Macmillan.
Whether it's money...
Am I going to lose my job?
Getting on with life.
Can I still go abroad? Get insurance?
Or just need someone to listen.
How do I tell them?
Our specialist advisors are here to help as often as you need them. Whatever you need to ask, cancer, money, life, call us now on 0808 134 1000.
I bought cars on finance, so I've made my claim.
If our lenders charge hidden commissions, then I've made my claim.
I could be on thousands.
I've made my claim.
I've made my claim.
I've made my claim.
I've made my claim. It's so quick and simple.
You could be owed thousands in hidden commissions from vehicles bought on finance since 2007, even without the details.
I've made my claim.
Trust myclaimgroup.co.uk.
Claims made simple.
On that front, things have sort of wound down, Ankit. The Iran versus US element of this entire escalation, that appears to have stopped. There's no forward movement there. All the action is where you are.
Absolutely, you are bang on. That it also looked like that this whole thing that happened yesterday, with multiple US bases coming under the fire from the Iranian missiles, which largely were, in fact, diffused and were neutralized by the air defenses, as Donald Trump said. It more or less was somewhat a show that was put up so that both Iran and United States actually could get an off-ramp of this crisis. They did not want to continue. Donald Trump knew that he's not going to get that sort of support in America if they actually have to put boots on grounds or have to be drawn in this conflict. Remember, he came to power this time saying that he's going to bring United States out of all the global conflicts that the United States is involved in. And then, of course, with bombing of those bases, nuclear bases and installations in Iran, it was absolutely the opposite that Mr. Trump has promised to his constituents. But it's after what happened yesterday, there was some sort of flimsy expectation that peace may, in fact, be ensued. And if that would have happened, Donald Trump would have, in fact, gone to the town saying that he has once again resolved another conflict, another crisis. But with what has happened this morning and what continues to happen now, because, in northern Israel, there have been sirens which have gone on again. And as you are reporting that the Israeli army, the IDF, has already said that they are engaging in counter-retaliation in retaliation of these attacks from Iran. It seems that the opportunity and this little glimmer of hope has completely now been thrown, or at least is buried under the rubble of where I'm standing, Shiv, where you are seeing these visuals of destruction and death which has come in from Israel at this moment, where a massive operation from the rescuers is still on, which it will tell you that, that 7 p.m. deadline, not only that deadline now stands on its head. We now don't know the current session, the current round of hostilities, for how long will it go on, because it has already been 12 days. And if this continues, if Israel retaliates, then of course we can expect retaliation from the Iranian side as well. It's the domestic audience for which at this moment the entire play of war is going on. Where is the full stop is something that is anybody's guess.
Ankit, I'm going to ask you one more question, and then I'm going to urge you to move your position, because I know it isn't safe. There are rescue and relief operations happening, but your safety is paramount. So we're going to ask you to, move as much as possible. But a very quick final question before I let you go, Ankit, is this. You are in Israel at a time when Iranian missiles are landing at locations right behind you. That's number one. Number two, Israel is about to retaliate, and therefore this is a country that you're reporting from that is on the highest state of military alert at this point of time. Air bases, military bases, drone bases, which are not very far from where you are in Beersheba, will also be on a very high state of alert. But most importantly, like you said, the death toll in Israel as a result of these Iranian strikes is something that has never actually been seen before. Iranian attacks with missiles and drones have usually targeted areas that are not population centers. This time they have specifically targeted population centers, and that's why things are different, and that's why what you're seeing on the ground hasn't been seen for many, many decades, Ankit.
Absolutely. This time, there have been, while you were speaking about this, I just went back to a day before where in Tel Aviv, there was, we showed you that shopping center and the residential area where the attack took place. And I spoke to one person who was taking the stuff out from his daughter's residence, which was impacted. And this is exactly what he said. He said, we are ready to pay the price in terms of the buildings. They can be rebuilt. But if lives are lost, this is not something that the Israelis are ready to stand by with. And that is exactly what has happened this morning. And also during this entire conflict, I will have to once recheck, but if I stand correct, if I remember correctly, the death toll throughout the 12 days now in Israel stands over 25. So between 25 to 29 is the number of dead this time in this conflict has been. And that takes a huge amount of toll and also pressure as far as the government is concerned for any kind of step back. The Iranian, of course, there have been retaliations and there have been a lot of destruction in Iran as well. But reporting from the country where I am in at this moment, that it becomes a very important figure for any sort of decision to go forward, which can be taken by Benjamin Netanyahu. Just earlier, just before these raid sirens, the alert sirens were sounded off in northern Israel, there was expectation from the Prime Minister's office. A full statement came in that objectives have been achieved. The Prime Minister is going to make a statement. He will speak to the people of Israel. Now that seems he would be in a very, very difficult position if even he was thinking of coming out and announcing some sort of ceasefire with what has happened, Shiv.
Ankit, a small final question before I let you go. The people that you're speaking to, the rescue staff, the first responders who are there in all of those places right now, military reservists that you're seeing come out of vacation or wherever they are to serve their country. That is one thing you're seeing everywhere in Israel. I notice it's there in almost every frame that you're sending us as well. This is clearly a country that is in its highest state of alert, where citizens are pitching in as well.
I can tell you one thing, and this was my first time in Israel, and that too under the most trying circumstances. I have never seen any other place where people are so prepared for a situation like this. Nobody wants a war, but, like we go, since morning, 4 times we had to run to the bomb shelters, and within moments, as soon as the raid siren goes off, people are back doing what they are. Every location of impact that I have been to, apart from, of course, the government agencies, the reservists, the forces, and everybody else, there are a group of volunteers that you will see set up tents, helping people, giving them, directions, helping them clean out their houses or whatever is left of their houses. So it is a country which has seen conflicts after conflicts, and the result of that, of course, is, yes, there is tension, yes, there is fear, but it more or less has become part of life, and that is why they are not worried, in a sense, with the kind of impact that it is taking. The only question was that people are extremely, extremely, serious about the death toll. Once the numbers of the dead start coming in, that's where the pressure starts building in. The buildings being damaged largely don't have the same impact. So this is, at the country at the highest state of alert, and where the people were possibly today hoping that this is going to result in some sort of de-escalation with what has happened now. And like you are pointing out, IDF is preparing for some sort of retaliation or towards